welcome, Nidhi. Thank you for joining us on the Dharma Journey podcast.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for
humbled,
having me, Brian.
yeah, so humbled to have you on. And Nidhi and I, we've connected a couple of months ago, and we did a live on Instagram. And I've been seeing your work, for a while now, and it's just phenomenal the way that you, demystify yoga and Ayurveda, and really cleansing the body and helping people understand the mind-body connection. So Nidhi is an Ayurvedic mind-body practitioner, third generation, and I'd love to ask you like how you got into this ancient science of self-healing, self-empowerment.
Thank you for the kind introduction, firstly, Brian. And it's such an honor to be here. Always a joy speaking to you. Well, talking about my journey of Ayurveda, in this lifetime, I was born in a family which practices Ayurveda and yoga and is very curious about the various philosophies that exist in the world. Of course, I do believe that I was fortunate enough. I really genuinely believe it's something that's been a part of my life for many, many lifetimes. But just talking about here and now, I grew up in a large family, 14 of us. So my grandfather was an Ayurvedic healer. And we kind of, with 14 people, there's a lot of different people react differently to things in their bodies and their minds. And I saw that how everybody ate the same food reacted differently. Everybody had the same experience, but processed it differently in their minds. And luckily, because we had Ayurveda as just through immersion, we kind of lived Ayurvedically. There was constant making connections between the outside world and the inside world at a physical and a mental level. So growing up in this environment really, allowed me to become curious as well as get answers in the real time. And everything just seemed like it makes sense. There were pieces of puzzle always fitting in. And I was particularly very curious to learn more and more and more. Then, fortunately for me, when I moved to the US about 16, 17 years ago, and I saw how different life was for a lot of people, right? Because growing up in my little shell, I was naive enough to assume that's how everybody in the world lives. And when I realized how lost people are with the connections we can make with our bio-individuality and how we can find ourselves and really understand that the way we process and digest our food and our experiences will really determine how in balance we are. So when I came to that realization here in the West, I said, this was definitely something that I want to dedicate my life to. And of course, right, when the US back then, there was no carved road. I was on the East Coast. Luckily, I had a background. I managed to get a great traditional education in Ayurveda. And then I've been on the path ever since. And I say it is my dharma because it's when I do this, I lose sense of time and space. I forget who I am. I forget my name. I forget where I'm sitting, what the weather is. I am so engrossed. I become one with the universe when I feel like I'm practicing Ayurveda. And to me, that is what really feels like you found your dharma.
It's beautiful. And I love the fact that we're both doing similar fields of work, and you have such a different background because you are from the origin of Ayurveda, which is in India. And I think like I said, I say on the podcast that we learn so much from one another, and I am always the student, never the teacher. So I love having you on here so I can learn about your perspective of Ayurveda. And for the listeners, like, some of them may not know what Ayurveda is. So from your perspective and your understanding, how can you simplify Ayurveda to make it kind of digestible for the people listening that may not have an understanding of what it is?
Right. So very loosely, right, the world knows Ayurveda as an ancient healing science. That's not what I describe it, but I'd like to start with this because that's what people will get when they first look at what Ayurveda is. It's an ancient healing science is what you'll get. But really what Ayurveda is, it's as much a science as physics, biology, chemistry is. But it is the science of life. And that's how the word actually translates. Ayu is life and Veda is science. So when we talk about the science of life, it has everything to do with the human body and the human mind. And it kind of studies, it kind of allows you to be in balance. Balance is everything in Ayurveda. It is a science which employs diet, herbs, lifestyle, meditation, yoga, everything that is required to keep us as human beings in balance. And what is beautiful about Ayurveda is we all talk about balance, and it's a very easily thrown out word. And everybody knows when they're out of balance, but though nobody really understands what does imbalance feel like. And I feel like a big part of that's a big missing piece. Once we understand what is in balance, what does harmony mean, and instead of talking about when you're imbalanced, what do you do, to talk about what do you do to keep in balance, and how we align with the universe that we live in. How do we align with the cycles of the sun? Ayurveda tries to create that harmony in your body, in your mind, and in your environment. And it provides practices and principles and prescriptions for each one of them. It is a very, very comprehensive science. Just to give you a small example, from the type of friends you should keep, to the fact that you ovulate on the 12th day, to if you want a certain kind of progeny, what do you do? I feel like I've had no answers that have not been, no questions that have not been answered in Ayurveda. It is everything to do with the human body, everything to do with the human mind, very well explained with lots of cross references. So it's a very complete science.
And what do you think for people that have an understanding of this, ancient healing science? What about modern science? How can Ayurveda still keep up with this modern science? Because obviously we're changing, we're evolving all the time. For the listeners that may question, because it's so old, how can it be relevant today?
I feel like that the real question is, how can modern science keep up with Ayurveda? The funny part is a lot of the recent concepts, for example, the concept of ketosis, autophagy, which won a Nobel Prize a few years ago, that actually comes from Ayurveda. It's completely, very clearly mentioned. So a lot of concepts that are being discovered today are existing in the text. So the one thing that I want to tell you, and everybody who's listening to this, is all the Vedas were written in a way that you can classify it into two things. There is something called the principles, which are unchanging. Gravity is gravity. Sun will be hot. That's not going to change. The river is going to flow. So there are principles, and then there are practices and prescriptions based on those principles. So the principles are eternal. Those will never change. The practices and the prescriptions will evolve with time. And the Vedas provide for that. It provides for how we change the herbs we use, the foods we eat, the lifestyle we lead, the practices we do. But the principles are never changing. But it takes that understanding in a practitioner and for an Ayurveda enthusiast to be able to differentiate, not get hung up on a practice or a prescription, but always dig deeper into understanding what is the principle and how can I use this principle to benefit me. I feel like a lot of people are kind of misled or confused about Ayurveda because they feel like it's all about these dogmatic practices, which it really is not. And this is provided for in the Vedas. So it's an eternal science, really.
And I often ask as well, what you were talking about balance and, imbalance, out of balance. A lot of people I know in my own life, when I was super out of balance, and that's how I discovered Ayurveda, I had digestive issues, I had anxiety, I just was completely, you would say, vata imbalance, and I was very stimulated. I was doing like a hot vinyasa class, and now I do more, traditional hatha yoga, and my mind was just so busy, and I didn't realize that was such in a relation to digesting my life experiences, because I was repeating the same patterns, getting into unhealthy relationships, doing things that just were unconscious because I didn't have that self-awareness. And then as soon as I started practicing Ayurveda, I started to see my digestion getting better, my sleep, my anxiety, like I started to become more present, and I actually just started to digest my life experience and turn it into wisdom. And I say that on a physical level, we need to digest and assimilate and turn our food into nourishment. Otherwise, we're not going to get the vital stuff out of it. And same with our life experiences. If we keep repeating the same patterns, we're not going to evolve. We're going to keep bumping into the same things. And I see, like, in my practice with my clients, once they kind of understand how Ayurveda works and how to bring themselves back into balance, they have never felt how good they can feel in balance, because it's been so long since they've been in balance. And I don't know, for your clients, like, what are the common things that you see in your practice that's like the number one thing for being out of balance?
Yeah. And I think you used the key word. Sorry?
Like digestive issues, or that's a main
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the key word that you used is self-awareness, right? What Ayurveda allows you to do is bring that self-awareness. And I feel like that is what is missing, that to understand at an emotional level and at a digestion level, what does my system view as nourishing, and what does it view as waste? And this happens even in your thoughts, right? We are indulging in activities which our mental system, our mind views as junk food, which we can't really process well, which sits with us, which ferments in our psyche. And then there are things we do that are nourishing, but bringing that self-awareness, like you said, to doing that, the less waste we have at a physical level and at an emotional level, the more we can understand what is nourishing to us and do more of that, we find ourselves better. So like you said, right, one of the things that I do, there are a lot of things that I find. Yes, digestion, which is so closely related to your mind, of course, is the first. It's also where our food hits the first. So before any disease manifests in a physical form, it usually first hits your digestive system if the causes are related to food. So digestion is definitely, but I also see a lot of anxiety because of excessive sensory consumption that we have in our whole culture today. And it's constant intake of food, snacking of experiences, snacking of, like even being on your phone all the time. It's overconsumption in every form. And I feel like that is actually one of the number one problems of our generation. And I see that manifest in different ways, and I see it manifest as different conditions.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I think so many of us, we are so caught up in this constant stimulation. We are just absorbed. And I know I am, like, I'm always on my phone because of my work, and I feel like I kind of have to be responding back to clients and uploading things and keeping, especially working online. How do you find it being online and being on your phone a lot? Do you have to make those like times where you're like, okay, it's 9 p.m, I need to turn off my phone now? Or are you quite strict on yourself? Or
So, Briar, I'll be honest with you, right? I feel like putting times like this is hard. Like, having a same time every day. Oh, hey, my phone goes off at 9 o'clock. I'm not there yet. Also, because I have kids, I have family in other parts of the world. But what I do is, take a lot of silent, quiet time in the day. So, for example, I'm spending time with my children, my phone is going to be off. Or if I'm meditating, I will make sure to have a lot. So I have a long I still don't think it's long, but it's an hour-long meditation practice, right? Which is a good hour-long meditation practice. I have my yoga practice. And then I will make sure that while I'm doing those things, I'm completely disconnected from my phone. So now, instead of saying, hey, I'm not going to be on my phone from 8, this time to this time, I just say, how can I find more time silently, quiet, without that sensory input? And, one of the things that I've also been working with my clients with is that, just the concept of no, hey, don't do this, don't be on your phone, don't eat this junk food. Just as human beings, when you're allowed to not do something, it feels very abrasive at a very fundamental level. So what I've been working more and more with is say yes to something else, right? So I'm saying yes to my silent time. I'm saying yes to meditation. I'm saying yes to a good soup for dinner, and get excited about all your yeses, and do whatever it takes to get excited about it. Sometimes it takes aromatherapy with my yoga, or it takes good herbs in my soup, or music, or just the feeling of how I'm going to feel after that, after I've done this. But when we get more excited about saying yes to what we want to do, it becomes so much easier to just, whatever doesn't belong to you, whatever is not a part of your dharma, of your bigger life goals, just shed off.
I love that. Remove all the layers that don't no longer serve us. And I really think that's one way of seeing, like, Ayurveda is definitely a way to come back to our prakriti, our true nature. And I think since I've been practicing and teaching now Ayurveda, and I think a lot of us that are on this kind of path of self-discovery, of self-healing and self-empowerment, the tools that have helped us, we naturally want to share with other people because we see how much they've changed our life, and we see how powerful they are and how simple. Like, people think Ayurveda is like this, big to-do list, but really once you start to integrate it in your life, it just becomes like brushing your teeth. Like, you get up and you do your meditation. It's just like a natural way of living. Like you said, I'm the same. I have like a very strong spiritual practice in the morning because I am so much externally stimulated. I need that internal time. Otherwise, my mind is not as focused. I'm not as present. I'm not as clear. I can't show up in the way that I want to. So I think a big part of having some quiet time is definitely withdrawing from the senses, pratyahara, like really taking yourself out of the hustle. Especially, you live in New York, so that must be intense for you.
You know what? Actually, not Briar, because I'll tell you, I'm on the 32nd floor. I have a water view. I have the city view. And to me, actually, ultimate peace, right, is when you can when you can view the world doing all its things and still find peace. Even since I was a little girl and somebody asked me, if you had to give a visual to peace, what would it be? And I said, I'm on the top of a tall building and the world underneath is active. And I feel like that to me is representation of ultimate peace, that to be able to keep that equilibrium while the world is still making its noise. And I'm actually getting to practice that all the time. And it is actually very lovely and peaceful where I am. It's really the top of a building, but it's really symbolic of what I want, of what I view as peace. So it's lovely. I cannot complain.
I know, I thought, because when I went to New York, it was very, very busy. And I live in Bali, so it's like a mini version of New York. Not now, but when we have lots of people living here, it's like ridiculously busy, scooters flying around, and it is definitely harder to find peace. So I think you have to find that peace within yourself. Otherwise, you're always going to be pulled from left to right. And I'd love to know as well, like, what inspired you on your journey into Dharma, into purpose? Like, how did you know that Ayurveda was something you needed to embody and practice for the majority of your life?
Yeah. And Briar, that's exactly what you said, right? I had a very natural curiosity for understanding what makes humans tick, what makes them, be happy, really connect, right? We all have experiences where we feel so connected, and then we have experiences which we feel very disconnected. And I've always questioned this my whole life, at a physical level, at an emotional level. And realizing, reading and realizing that really essentially what we do at a physical and at a level of your soul is build up these layers, right? We build up tendencies, and all our life we're constantly building up layer after layer, tendency after tendency, impression after impression. We are just walking around with the baggage of all our experiences without offloading that baggage, right? So every time you have an experience, you have a bad breakup, there's a little baggage from there. There was a pandemic, we carry baggage from there. We were told something as a little child, and we carry that baggage from there. And really, essentially, we just kind of go through life with this heavy weight on our shoulders. Similarly, hey, let's say at a physical level, hey, I had, for example, somebody had jaundice as a child, was on medication. Now there's that toxicity left. I had 4 years of college and you ate a lot of junk food, and now that baggage is left in your system. So essentially we are just leading our lives, like just depreciating our bodies and our minds. And then we forget who we are. We have this whole layer of dust physically, we have this whole layer of dust emotionally. And at the level of your soul, we're just like full of this dust. And who are we? What is underneath that dust, right? So that was what I was very curious about that. But in that journey, what I started at some point doing, actually, Briar, I started doing this every day. I said, help me to see who I am, right? This is all what my prayer was about, that I'm ready to see the truth. And I'm ready to see the truth of who I am and whatever I need to see. And it takes bravery, it takes courage to kind of want to have that dust. So I had to develop that courage. But I see that as soon as that started happening, and I'm still in that same place where I'm like, I want to keep seeing, keep unfolding. It's amazing, right? Because when you ask the questions, the answers just come. And the more we uncover ourselves and the more we undo ourselves, and that's what started happening with me. And I said, as I went on this journey of uncovering and unlayering, I said, and the liberation and the freedom, while it's scary to first dust it off, once you dust off, it's shining inside, it's gleaming. You get closer and closer to the radiance that you carry. And you just want to keep doing it. And then you want to help others to do it. Life is not supposed to feel so heavy. Nothing is supposed to feel so heavy. Doesn't matter what happens, whether it's a pandemic or a breakup, or even if a loss of a loved one, everything you experience has the possibility of being a speck in your life, as long as we allow it to be a speck in our life. We need to address the baggage we create and carry.
Yeah, and that leads me to, a lot of people are suffering, I think, right now with everything going on. And part of the reason why I did this podcast is like, how can we as practitioners, as teachers, as people in a field of wanting to inspire and help other people through our own journey and our own suffering, and how do you jump back to a state of love, joy, gratitude, inspiration? Like, obviously Ayurveda is a big one for you. Is there any other tools or practices or things that you recommend that help you jump back when you're feeling a little bit like you've just, the dust has kind of came back on and you need to a little bit of a reset kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm actually a big believer of a journaling practice. And, I kind of written down a version of myself that if I function with only courage and compassion, and, that ideal version, who I call Nidhi 2.0, right? What is she like? What does she feel like? How does she react to situations? What is her life mission? And, kind of I felt it, right? You have to feel her. You have to feel that version of yourself. You can write it and feel it. And, and then I see myself in the day, right? So that's my belief, that that's who I'm capable of being. I know that is inside me, that's within me. And then when you go through the day and then you see not behaving like the 2.0 version, we see ourselves behaving like the 1.0, or like not even beta version, right? And then at that point, right? So I try and spend some time introspecting in the evenings on certain days when I've really gone off equilibrium, to say, hey, you know what, this is what I did not, I acted in ways which was not the 2.0 version. And then I questioned, what was that emotion which led me to act in this manner? Was I acting out of fear? Was I acting out of guilt? Was I acting out of shame? Examining, what are those emotions? What are those tendencies that I carry that take me away from the 2.0? And when doing that, then I also ask myself, and I think this needs to be done with ultimate lightheartedness, with not punishing yourselves, not being harsh on yourself, knowing this is what life is about. And then say, hey, if I had done that, if 2.0 was dealing with this, what would 2.0 do? If 2.0 was in this situation, what would she do? And that's it, leaving it at that, not saying I want to change this, change that. But as we keep doing this, right, you're automatically creating that neuroplasticity. You're using your brain, you're training your brain without even consciously doing it, to that next time when you're in that situation, your brain can call upon that, what you can do, what you're capable of doing. And I know, Briar, it's like it's made a tremendous difference to my life. And just examining that everything that I do should come from a place of courage and compassion. And I'm not saying it does, but I know when it doesn't, I try and ask myself, what was that charge about? And we just need to figure out our charges, what gets us charged, and understand that. And I feel like that's a huge practice that can be done by anybody, is understanding your own charges and tendencies. And it's extremely, tremendously helpful in a time like this. I've seen a lot of people make a lot of progress in this time, find their ashram, find their peace inside, neutralize all their charges. And I feel like that's what really a human life should be about.
Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like the life experiences and lessons on our path into evolution, into becoming our best version. I mean, we are always our best version. It's just remembering it. And I think a big part of Ayurveda, it's like you don't learn Ayurveda, it's you remember it. And it's been within us all along because it's connected to nature, and we're connected to nature. And for you, because obviously you have children as well, like, do you share obviously Ayurveda with them? Like, do they love learning about it? Like, how is it for kids learning about this? Is it for them? It's not really learning because it's also remembering, because they've got it within them too.
Right. And again, right, I think it's beautiful to raise your kids in a family which talks Ayurveda. That's how I grew up. It's through immersion. It's like learning a first language. You never have to learn it. You grew up with it. Right. So there's no learning, like you said, there's no learning involved. It's there within you. You see it and it happens. And it's much easier to connect. So I will say that my girls feel connected. They understand it. They are curious about it, but there's no teaching really. There isn't any teaching. And yet if you hear my 12-year-old talk about Ayurveda, I think she could teach a class.
Ayurveda, she's like, just knows it within her bones. I said that to my partner. I'm like, our kids, it's like, you don't have to teach your kids. They learn by what you're doing, what you're embodying. And that really is the teaching, which is powerful. And I think as well as you, as like the people that you serve, you're not really teaching, it's just embodying it. And through embodying something, people see that. It's like we are attracted to the light, we are attracted to things that make us feel good. And when you are embodying a certain practice, people gravitate towards you because they see that you're really truly embodying something that's been profound in your life. And yeah, what kind of offerings do you share with your community? Like, what, I know you just launched an online course, like tell me a bit about what you do. I'd love to know a bit more about how you service your community.
Right. So, Briar, one of the things that, one of my most favorite things to do, which I only work with a handful of people each month, is I have a 6-month transformation program where we work over a period of 6 months, to find ourselves, to find all of the layers we've had at a physical and emotional level, to undo them, to come back to balance, to make balance our second nature. At the end of the 6 months, the goal is for whoever I'm working with to feel so empowered that I know myself. I know who I am inside and out, as well as I know the size of my clothes. It's so easy to go shopping for clothes, right? Because we know our gender preference, we know what our size is, we know whether we're looking shopping, that we're shopping for. Similarly, when we know who we are inside, it becomes so easy to make choices food-wise, diet-wise, in just in anything in your life, by just knowing who we are. That's self-awareness, and that's what the program is really about. And I really enjoyed that. It really is very, very fulfilling for me. So that's a 6-month program. I do have a course as well, and I would say it's not an academic course. I don't like the word course, even though I use it myself. But it's Ayurveda through immersion. That if you grew up with this, how would you see this science, right? How can you use existing principles like what you know, whether it's gravity or whether it's water flows or you need sunlight, just existing principles, and apply them to your body. So it's a course that you learn Ayurveda through immersion, how to simplify it. I call it Ayurveda demystified and applied. And that's what the course is really about, that it should be a fun course, not feeling academic. I also teach at a school. I teach at the Shakti school. I'm going to be teaching one of the Ayurvedic ancient texts, Ashtang Hridayam. We're going to be reading 5 chapters, which is my favorite Ayurvedic text. We're reading the chapters in Sanskrit and doing the English translation. I write for a bunch of magazines and blogs, and just, a lot of content creation as well. So teaching, content creation, working with people, and I have my course.
I love that. That's so cool. And it's like that natural progression. Like as soon as you start to, you have to kind of put in the hard work and like work one-on-one with clients and really understand them and different people and body types, and then you can start to work more with doing like workshops and courses. And do you do any workshops or anything like that, or is it more?
Yeah, absolutely. I also do workshops. I'm a chicken when it comes to workshops because all the admin work that goes with it is something that I'm not very good at. But I do workshops. I had one Know Yourself Through Ayurveda workshop, which was really going deep into understanding who you are. I have another bunch of workshops coming up in October, and those are going to be on, chronic conditions, like a workshop on thyroid, a workshop on PCOS, or if you're pregnant, or obesity, insomnia. So 5 workshops, a series of 5 workshops, which is we're going to be a part of many more. But what it is a daily routine. What should a day look like if you have thyroid? What should your day look like if you have PCOS? Because people get random ideas, random suggestions, but how to put it all together, give them a yoga routine, give them a whole Ayurvedic diet and understanding of what works for them, what doesn't work. So there is, it's just to simplify their journey. And that's coming out in October. So I do workshops every now and then.
Yeah, that I completely get what you mean about workshops. I think because I'm so extroverted, I love teaching workshops. Like I love holding space for more people. And but it's kind of like gravitating towards what your superpower is. And I think you have so much understanding, and I've watched you on the Shakti school as well, and it's like you have so much Shakti, and I love it. You just have so much knowledge about herbs and everything that can if you have constipation, you're going to have this. If you have diarrhea, take this. And really understanding Ayurveda is not we don't want to we don't have symptomatic relief. We really want to get to the root cause. Like, why have you got constipation? What are you holding on to mentally? All of the things that are so much more layers behind finding the root causes of autoimmune diseases. And the fact that you're going to be diving into thyroid, PCOS. I see so many of my clients that have reproductive issues. Obviously Shukra Dhatu gets the last the not as much nutrients as all the other tissues. And it's such a powerful thing that you're bringing this knowledge and making it available for people that have autoimmune disorders and diseases that need Ayurveda to help them uncover the root cause of why they experience this imbalance. And that's why I love Ayurveda, because it's holistic and it looks at the mind, body, spirit, not just the symptom. So
Absolutely.
No, I'm super excited to see what you've got in store, and like I said, we all learn from each other. And I love what you're doing on social media and how you present yourself, and the little memes that you do, like the poo ones. I love it. I wish I was better at those kind of things. I'm so like the little memes things. They're really cool. I really love them. They're very.
Thank you so much, Briar. I mean, I love all the work you do as well, and the authenticity and the freshness you bring to this work, which is it's great. It's unique, and I love for all of us to keep working together.
Yeah, like we have. I think there's not that many Ayurveda people, women especially. There's like a few doing their thing, and I think I feel like it's gonna boom in the next especially with everything going on and people really wanting to learn about their health and their mind. And I feel like the business side of things has gone better since Corona, which is really cool because people are so hungry to learn about themselves on a deeper level. So I think
it's lovely.
Yeah, it's a great network that we have to learn together and really keep the tradition alive. I think that's a part of our Dharma, isn't it?
Absolutely, Briar. I'm with you on that.
And also, I would love to know how can people connect with you if they want to, follow you on Instagram or maybe learn from you. Or please let them know where they can find you.
Right. So the easiest thing to do is find me on Instagram. My handle is my_Ayurvedic_life. So that's my Ayurvedic life with underscores between the words, as well as write me an email on nidhi@nidhipandya.com. That's Nidhi at my full name, nidhipandya.com.
And also I'll be putting you in the show notes as well, so anyone that wants to connect with you and learn about Ayurveda and all the offerings that you have, they can connect in with you. And yeah, is there anything else you'd like to share on the Dharma journey? Any words of inspiration? Or
I think you did a great job, Brian. Like, all I can say to anybody who's listening is that it seems like a difficult journey. And instead of looking outside in the world, what is it that resonates with me? A lot of times people go in on that path. Hey, let me find my dharma outside. The way you find your dharma is just dusting off layers inside. Anything that triggers you physically at a digestive level or an emotional level, examine that, understand where it's coming from, understand why it triggers you, replace it with something that doesn't trigger you, and just let it go, surrender to it. And finding your dharma is about finding yourself within, not about finding something in the world outside and seeing if that's a match. It's an internal match, not an external match.
Wow, that's powerful. Really, that is Dharma, is being okay with yourself, being able to fully love and understand yourself on a deeper level. And that really is Dharma, is just becoming one with yourself. So thank you for sharing your version of Dharma. And I'm so grateful to have you on the Dharma journey. It's going to be unfolding, and I'm sure we'll have you on in a couple of months when we're taking off, and we want to have more of you because you have so much wisdom to share.
Thank you so much, Brad. This is a lovely chat. I'm always inspired chatting with you, so thank you.
Thank you. Sending you lots of love. Bye.
You too.
Om Gam Ganapataye Namah. Om Gam Ganapataye Namah. Om Gam Ganapataye Namah.
Thank you so much for joining me, your host, Briar Roots, on the Dharma Journey podcast. It's been an honor to guide you and to have you listen to me and amazing people on this podcast from all walks of life. If you enjoyed the podcast, if something shifted within you and hopefully it made you laugh, cry, or had a moment of inspiration, then please feel free to share this podcast with others if it resonates. And really, that's how we grow. We grow as a collective. We grow when we unite and we help one another out. And really, that's the beauty of why we're all here, is to guide each other home, help us uncover our unique soul's jiva, our purpose, so we can shine our light with others and live a more auspicious life. So thank you for joining me on the Dharma journey, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Aho, Hariom.